Hey guys, RanterInShades here. Exercising my First Amendment rights vlog style. Figured I'd record outside at least once before I go back to school. Now, the idea for this video came to me after I read an article about, as well as listened to, a band by the name of Oakley Dokley, who, as you can see from the picture here, have a theme based on Ned Flanders from The Simpsons.
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Stupid sexy Flanders!
Now, before I get to the main point of this video, I just want to say that when I listened to the band, I didn't think they were bad. I'll give them that credit. Production was a little for my taste, but maybe that's just my standards being a bit too high. But that isn't the point of this video. This isn't a video giving my thoughts on Oakley Dokley as far as their music goes, but I want to delve a little more into what hearing about them made me think about. When I heard about Oakley Dokley, they reminded me right away of two bands that I read articles about within the past year. The first was Mac Sabbath, who were a McDonald's-themed Black Sabbath tribute band, and the second was Spongecore X, I'll call them Spongecore, who were a SpongeBob-themed metal band. These three bands all have one main thing in common. They all have very well-known and attention-grabbing of gimmicks. This is what led me to ask this question. Is this really what it takes for bands to get press? If they have a really popular gimmick like Ned Flanders, McDonald's, or SpongeBob? That just seems like kind of a jip to the many bands out there busting their asses to get that kind of exposure. But with these bands, sure, the gimmick is cute and creative, and it must have taken a good bit of thought to come up with it, but it almost seems like they didn't need to work as hard to get out. That's basically what relying on a gimmick is. The Foo Fighters didn't get to where they are by being gimmicky, apart from having Dave Jesus Grohl as their frontman. For the most part, they got to where they are by making music that a lot of people liked, and got a record label interested in signing them and promoting them. Now, this isn't me saying gimmicks are bad, or that there's anything wrong with gimmicks. I like a good bit of gimmicky bands, such as Power Glove with the gimmick of playing metal covers of video game music, Ailstorm with the gimmick of having songs about pirates, Fozzy with the gimmick of having a professional wrestler as their frontman, Spinal Tap and Deathclock, who both have the gimmick of being fictional bands from a movie in Spinal Tap's case, and a TV show in Deathclock's case, along with many others. Hell, even Steel Panther could be looked at as having a gimmick of being a glam metal band in the 2000s that does comedic songs all about sex and pretty much nothing else. Gardens of Acadia could also be looked at as having a gimmick of sorts, since our songs are all based around a comic book concept that Justin, the singer and rhythm guitarist, is writing. And if that's the case, then Coheed and Cambria have a similar gimmick. There are also some YouTubers I like that have gimmicks as well. Girl Does Rant, Creationist Cat, and Armored Skeptic, to name a few. I like a lot of bands that have gimmicks, and I have no problem with bands such as the ones I listed having gimmicks. But with bands like Oakley Dokley, it just seems like their gimmick is all they are, and that's all it took for them to get press. The bands I talked about before had a lot more to offer than just their gimmick, and that's why they're taken seriously. But bands like Oakley Dokley, Mac Sabbath, and Spongecore aren't being taken seriously. How do I know this? Because everyone I know who talked about those bands when they were getting press were pretty much saying, oh cool, this band has a theme of Ned Flanders. Oh cool, a McDonald's Black Sabbath tribute band. Oh cool, a SpongeBob-themed metal band. They weren't taking them seriously for their music, and because of that, nobody gives a shit about them anymore. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's even talked about Mac Sabbath and Spongecore in recent months. How do bands like these expect to last when they not only aren't being taken seriously and rely too much on their gimmicks, but more than likely don't take themselves seriously either? Now, I'm sure it can be argued right about here that Steel Panther don't really take themselves seriously either. Well, if they didn't take themselves seriously, why would they still be going on? That says to me that they are a serious band to that extent, as well as the extent that they can write really good parts for their songs. But my challenge here for anyone who's going to make that argument is to name one band who makes music professionally just for shits and giggles. That's what it really seems like with bands like Oakley Dokley, that they're just doing it for shits and giggles. Now, there's nothing wrong with making music just for shits and giggles, but if you don't take yourself seriously, how do you expect anyone else to? This is what leads me to think that bands like Oakley Dokley aren't going to last long, and that they aren't really going to make a career out of being a Ned Flanders themed metal band. But hopefully they can have more to bring to the table with their music if they want to get far, because from what I've heard from their music, they only have so much to really offer. So, are gimmicks bad? It depends on the gimmick, as well as how much you have to offer outside of the gimmick with your music. That's what indicates to the listener that they are to be taken seriously. But it shouldn't just take a gimmick like Ned Flanders, McDonald's, or SpongeBob to get your band press. If you're gonna get press, get it for being good and not just gimmicky. You can be both, like Steel Panther, Ailstorm, Fozzy, and the other bands I talked about before are, but don't just rely on your gimmick, because that's not what they did either. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time. wonder if the shades count as a gimmick for me. Then again, it's no different at all from Cover Killer Nation, Razor Fist, and a bunch of other people, so who knows.